Hey, g'day, it's Prezzo. Welcome back to the shop today. Now, I hope I didn't scare you too much, and just to reassure you, there's no way in the world I would ever try to drill a piece of sheet metal shaped like that in a drill press with a large diameter drill bit. Now, even if you're a complete beginner to metalworking, you would have recognized the danger of what I was about to do. So what I want to do in today's video is to show you a safer alternative to achieve the same result, and also a technique that is going to give you clean holes of an accurate size in thin sheet material. So let's have a closer look. These are some sheet materials that you may want to use in your workshop, and you may want to be able to drill holes in these with large diameter bits. This is some stainless steel. This is a galvanized steel, sometimes called Galvabond, and this is a material called Colorbond. So this is a zinc coated steel. It's got an organic paint on both sides and a clear plastic film over this white side here. Typically it's used for making roofing materials and guttering and so on. But all of these materials are quite thin, and because of that they can be quite problematic to drill with large diameter drill bits. Even with smaller bits, around about 6 millimeters, there's always a risk there that something will go wrong. And typically this is what happens if you try to drill in a drill press with a large diameter bit. So I'm not stupid. I actually held this with a pair of pliers and put it in the drill press just to see what would happen, although I knew what would happen. And as the drill bit breaks through, it will tend to get caught on the helical edge of the drill bit, and it pulls the stock up the drill bit uncontrollably. And if you're not prepared for it, if you're not ready, it'll get pulled out of your grip and will begin to spin on the drill bit, and of course these sharp corners are going to make mincemeat out of your fingers. So there must be a safer way of doing it, and there is, and that's what I'm going to show you. And here's an example of a piece of stock, that same Colorbond, that's been drilled with the same diameter drill bit, but I got a perfectly round hole with no burrs, and I didn't distort the material. So that's what I want to show you. But let's go over the drill press first, and let's do one of these and just see what can go wrong. Alrighty, here's the setup. So this is an 11 millimeter diameter drill bit, and I've got a block of hardwood underneath the tip of the drill. Here's the little sample piece that we made up before, complete with the center punch mark. And I'm going to hold this with a pair of pliers. Now, I did say that I knew what was going to happen here, so let's try it out and see if we can demonstrate how this can go badly wrong. Now, I've got the rest of my hands clear. If this does start to spin uncontrollably on the drill bit, I've got the pliers holding it, so my fingertips are nowhere near. But I need to remind you, you should never ever ever do this, especially with a small piece just like this. Let's see what happens. Okay, well there's the aftermath. And that is a classic example of what can go wrong if you're trying to drill sheet metal. And if I just take that off there, you can see the shape of the hole. It's certainly not circular, and there's a large piece of bent stock here which didn't cut through at the tip of the drill bit, and that's what caught in the helix of the drill and pulled it up. And of course when that happens, and if you're not prepared for it, it will spin the material out of your grip. And even if it's not hooked like this piece that I made, I did that deliberately to show you how dangerous it can be, but just the sharp corners, the 90-degree corners, are going to do some real damage to your fingers. So let me remind you, you should never ever do that. There is a safer way, and that's what I want to show you. So let's have a look. I'm going to demonstrate by cutting some more holes in this same piece of white Colorbond material, and I'm going to hold it in my fingers. That's how confident I am that this works. But as a precaution, I've got the block of wood clamped down on the drill press table with one of these sort of finger clamps, and I can put the stock up against the metal part of the clamp there to prevent that from spinning. But what I do know is that there's no chance that the drill will try and pull the material up along the helical grooves or the helical flutes. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, he's just going to use one of these step drills, and these are specifically designed for cutting holes in sheet metal, and they're very safe, but I'm not going to. I'm going to use the same 11 millimeter twist drill, and we're going to cut a hole in here, and then we'll measure it and see how accurate it is. Now, the only secret ingredient you need to make this work is a piece of cloth, and that's it there. Now, I'll just unfold that, and what's that? It's about 40 millimeters by about 100. Doesn't really matter what size it is. You don't want it too big because it's going to spin and you don't want to get it wrapped around anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double it over twice. So I've already doubled it once, I'll double it again, and you want it so that it's about the same size as the tip of the drill bit, maybe a bit bigger. This is probably longer than I need it, but it will work. So there it is there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start the drill bit. You know, imagine we've got a point there that we want to drill on. I'm going to start the drill bit, then I'm going to put the bit of cloth in between the tip of the drill and the stock, and then we'll drill the hole. Okay, here goes. Just get a spot started there, put your bit of cloth over that point, and we're going to drill through. And that's it. So what has happened? Well, the cloth is sort of wrapped around the tip of the drill bit and is packed in between the flutes of the drill. And what that does is it sort of controls the cutting action as the drill bit passes through that stock. And also the pressure of that cloth keeps the stock down hard on the table or the drill press or the block of wood or whatever you're using. But I think you'll agree that that's a beautifully clean hole. It's got a little bit of burring on the back there, but I'll show you how to take care of that. Let's try another type of material. Okay, let's try this bit of Galvabond. Now, I can use the same bit of cloth, but it's probably safer to get another one. If I unfold that, you can sort of see there's 4 holes in it. So I'll get another piece. Right, again, I've just folded that into 4. Let's get a drill spot started. It's a good idea to actually use a different piece of wood each time, so you're not drilling into an existing hole. Okay, there's our bit of cloth. And again, cuts perfectly cleanly, you get a perfectly circular hole, and it's incredibly safe. Let's try a bit of stainless steel. Okay, works again. A little bit tougher, the stainless steel, you know, you sort of feel like the drill bit is labouring a bit, but that is a quite thick piece of stainless steel there. I guess that's about 0.8 of a millimetre diameter. So there you go, it works. Now, I've tried this on all sorts of material, non-ferrous, ferrous, different thicknesses. It works every time. And like I say, there's never any danger that the drill is going to pull the material up the flutes of the drill bit. You do still have to be careful that it's not going to spin, and that's one reason why I've got this clamp here. So that just sort of takes up any force as the material tries to rotate around the tip of the drill bit. But if you control your drill pressure, control your cutting speed, you don't have a problem. What's going to be an issue is that if you try to punch the drill bit through too quickly. So as the hole passes through to the back side of the stock, if you put too much pressure on the drill bit at that point, the cutting edge will, instead of cutting, it will actually force its way through and grab hold of the stock, and then it's going to try and spin it. Now, if you've got your clamp there, it's not a problem, but I have done this without the clamp and it works fine. I'll demonstrate. Alright, there's that same piece of colour bond. Okay, it works. Now, if you're a beginner, I wouldn't suggest you hold it like I just did there. Now, I've had enough experience with this that I can get some sense of what the material is doing. but as a beginner, always clamp it, or at least have something there to catch the material as it tries to rotate, and you'll be fine. Okay, let's take these over to the bench and we'll measure the diameter of the hole, have a closer look at the surface finish on both sides. Okay, there's the various pieces of stock that we just drilled, and if I take this piece of Colorbond, this is one of the holes I just completed. If I turn that over on the back, there is a raised burr there. It's not particularly prominent. You can knock it off with one of these Noga deep burring tools fairly quickly, or you could use a regular countersink or very carefully file it, I guess. But that does remove that burr quite easily. Okay, I used an 11mm drill bit. Let's measure this hole in the stainless and see how closely we got to that dimension. I'll turn this around so you can see it. Alright, so we got, what's that, 1106, that's about 2 thou oversize, depending on where you measure it. But that's not bad for a drill bit in sheet metal. And even if you were drilling in solid stock, most drill bits tend to drill oversized anyway. But the most important thing is the beautifully clean edges you get on the hole, and it is truly circular. Now here's the one that we did without the piece of cloth, and the hole is ragged, it's distorted, it varies in diameter depending on where you measure because of the way that it rotated and moved as it was cutting through. So I think, you know, if you look at the difference there, it's fairly obvious that that technique works really well. Just brought the drill bit over from the drill press to show you what's going on. This cloth is simply parted and wrapped itself quite tightly around the outside diameter of the drill bit, and it's that pressure from that cloth that keeps the stock down hard on the block of wood that we were drilling into, and it sort of prevents the drill bit from wandering, but it also keeps that downward pressure on the stock and stops it from lifting up rapidly and traveling up the flutes of the drill bit, which is what's so dangerous. So if I take that off there completely and unfold it, you can sort of see it's got 4 quite neat holes in it. And the type of cloth it used, it just needs to be sort of soft-ish, not too thick, probably not something like toweling. It's just a bit of old cotton t-shirt, seems to work really well. And you might be saying, well, why don't you just use one of those step drills? Well, let's have a look. Right, this is a pair of step drills. Now I've got 3 of these, and they range from about 4mm up to about, I don't know, 25mm I think. And these are stepped in 1mm increments. Now these are designed specifically for cutting holes in sheet metal and thin materials, and the reason why they are so safe is the ratio between the length of the cutting edge and the thickness of the stock, so that by the time you cut through the stock you're already clear of the cutting edge and you're starting to work up this parallel section here, and then as the next step arrives it holds the material down. Once again, by the time you cut through, you're on this clear section here. So there's never any chance that a chip will form and try to pull the stock up this, what is essentially a straight flute. Now, this one's got more of a helical flute, but again, it's the ratio between the length of the cutting edge and the thickness of the stock that makes them safe. So these work great. The only trouble is these come in fixed increments, so 1mm increments. Now let's just say, for example, you wanted to drill a hole with a letter B drill bit, which is what this is. Now that's a diameter of 10.26mm, and you're not going to get that with one of these step drills. So with your little bit of cloth and your letter drill or number drill, you can get an accurately sized hole with a clean edge and truly circular, and it's perfectly safe. So there you go, that's my trick for today. Now, it's not my idea. I read about this in the British Model Engineer magazine many, many years ago. There's a section in the magazine, I think it's like a tips and tricks section, and someone had written in with this idea, and I read about it and I thought that can't possibly work. And I went down to the workshop and tried it, and was absolutely blown away with how simple it was and what good results you could get just using an ordinary old bit of cloth like that. So there's my little tip for you for cutting holes in sheet metal safely. Give it a try. I'm pretty sure you'll use it eventually. It's not the sort of thing you do every day, but it does work. Now, before I go, sticker time. Okay, new stickers, let's get them up on the door. Okay, first of these comes from Everett's workshop. Now, Everett lives in or near Edmonton in Alberta, Canada. And I love Everett's sticker, really heavy duty, good quality. And I love the logo as well. So these letters, which are E and W, look like graduations on a steel rule. And they say that a good logo should be memorable, legible, and simple. And I reckon Everett's nailed it on all three of those. So yeah, 3 ticks from me, Everett, for that logo. Now, Everett has a wonderful channel. A lot of it is automotive, but I'll forgive him for that because he does a lot of workshop stuff as well. Here's a picture of his homepage, his YouTube homepage, and here's a clip of Everett doing a workshop tour. Now, Everett, I think, has moved to a new residence, and for about 12 months he's not been able to get into his workshop, and he's rectified that, and he did a workshop tour recently. And the thing that struck me about Everett's workshop is that he has about a gazillion of those tool cabinets. Got them everywhere. And I own a total of 3. And the most recent one I got was for my CNC machining center, and this is it here. But yeah, it'd be nice to have that sort of storage in the workshop. So check out Everett's workshop. The link to his channel is in the description of the video below. And he does some amazing stuff, so it's well worth having a look at. Okay, the next one here is from Paul in Haxby Shed. Now, Haxby Shed is the name of his workshop, I believe. But Paul lives in York in the UK, a wonderful place, Yorkshire. So Paul does some amazing stuff in his workshop. He's got a really nice lathe and does a lot of machining. And this is his homepage, his YouTube homepage. And here's a clip of Paul making a wonderful trepanning tool. It's a pretty ambitious project for a home workshop, I thought. So you'll see more of that on his channel, and check it out. Good stuff there. Thanks, guys. Okay, well, that's it from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that tip on drilling sheet metal, and stay safe in the workshop. And I'm going to leave you with a look at some wildlife that appeared in our back garden just recently. Now, we've had a pair of juvenile magpies and a pair of juvenile butcher birds in the garden recently, and they've got absolutely beautiful singing voices, and they're just learning to communicate in that way. So they often sit in the garden and just practice on their own. And we've also got an eastern grey kangaroo who has a very small joey. Now, I got the camera out the other day. She was in the back garden, and you can always tell because their undercarriage hangs down a fair bit. And she was standing there, but all I could see was the tip of the tail out of the pouch. But later on in the day, the joey appeared. I only had the still camera, but I got a couple of shots. So I'll leave you with that. And next time we come back in the workshop, I'm going to show you some models that I think I showed a picture of a cabinet that I've got up in the house with some models, and I put the Taipan Tyro engine in it, and a few people have asked about the models that were in there, but I'll show you a couple of those that I think are interesting. Anyway, for now, enjoy the wildlife, and I'll catch you on the next video. It's Prezzo signing out. Cheers.